and welcome to LSE IT Corner. Today we're gonna work on Node.js. As you know from the last video, we installed Node.js and I was already giving a little bit of a preview what's coming about images. So today we're gonna talk about it. So let's right away jump into what we have to do. Thanks again for Kamatera. They are not a sponsor, but that's where I'm using my VM on right now, which we're using for this setup and for all these videos so that you guys can learn something about it. So on our webpage, luminet.info, we have an image down here, which is actually, when you look into it and say open image in a new tab, you look at it, it is actually a WebP format. So, which is very good in compression rate already. It's a more modern file format, which is recommended now by Google to be used. But it has an issue when you try to do it for social media because most social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and so on, they are not supporting it yet. But this is exactly the image we're gonna work with today, and we're gonna convert it over into something more normal, so to speak, either a PNG or JPEG, and we can do that on the fly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our web server, which we have hosted in the Atlanta data center. And we already had from the past said that Node.js is installed, up and running. And as you can see, it's actually running as a service and uses the snap mode, and in opt Node.js, there's the server.js file. And so in there, I already copied the code in, but we're going to go through that code. So I added a couple of the conditions and made sure that we have everything what we need pretty much up and running here. So we need, for example, we need the URL, we need the FS, we need the path, we need a joy, we need GM, and we need ImageMagick, which we already installed in a previous video. So now we're going to go down, and as you can recall, we did the status, and now we're going to do something new. So we're going to use a new call, which is const pipeline async, which is crucial if you want to do multiple images in parallel and don't want to lose one or the other while you're doing multiple images and try to upload those. So what we're going to do here is two things. We have here now created us a code. Let's see if I can get it all in one section here. So here you can see it pretty much from snap top to the snap button. This is the exact function what I'm doing here. So what I do is I called an app-get, meaning I made an application and call it convert-images, run it asynchronous so that I can do one or multiple images at the same time without colliding with each other. And I'm calling for 2 fields, and you can always add more, but for this purpose right now we only want to do the first 2. We can do more later on, but from what I have for usage for it right now, all I really need is the 2, because what I get here is the image URL and the format. So keep those 2 variables in mind, because those are the most important ones. The idea is that we're going to take us back to our marketing server, and let me just copy here this section for now. Here you can see already examples we're going to dive into. So we're going to go here and we just call this function, which is already up and running, and I tell you why I called it API here as a subdirectory and still is being executable in a second. It's something you can do in Nginx with a reverse proxying functionality. But here you can see pretty much it's already acquired. So it gives you that back what we just have defined here. If image URL is not set, please return a status 400 and send that to the front end. So image URL is required. That's what it says. It doesn't say more than that. You can optimize it and customize it as you see fit. But this is actually where you do your error handling. Okay, I don't do much of an error handling in here other than the 400, because you can see below there's nothing really in it, except for a status 500 down here when there's an error that the image can't be converted because the file is not supported, right? Or the image can't be processed. There's an error message with it. But what we're going to do here is we're calling from that URL query, which we're going to send a bunch of variables, and we're going to break them down. And literally, we only focusing on these two because that's all we really need. The rest can be handled by GMs, meaning image magic on its own, just fine. What we do here is we're going to do a try function. It's like a for loop, so to speak. It tries and it extracts from the image URL here and put it into the parse URL. And then we have the original name, which is a path file based, and right, so it takes the name of the image and puts it into an original name so that we can preserve it. So in our example, like image-name.png, for example, and then by default we want to say, okay, it's JPEG, but we can say it's something else. So if we forget to say into what format we want to convert, then it assumes it will be a JPEG. Again, if it's not, then we can change it, right? So next one is the base name. So we extract out of the original name pretty much the base name, meaning we go to everything in front of the dot of the file name. And so with that, we preserve us the base name. Because one of the things which I don't like is you upload an image, you want to change it, and you want to save it down back to where your original folder was, or for the upload, and you really don't like it when it changes randomly your file name. And so I like to preserve it, and that's exactly what we do here. We preserve the name of it, and then with the download name we define, then we put the base name and the formats together. So the format is up here. If that one changes into something else, then it will be changed, of course, right? But that's pretty much how it works. Then what we do is now we're going to fetch us actually the whole data really. And then we're going to run it through GM, which is a library within Node.js, which allows us to give us certain automated functionalities to piggyback, so to speak, onto image magic. I don't want to go too far in detail because it would explode through this videos and explanation of what you can do really with it, because key is this video needs to be short and compressed, and you can pretty much copy paste this code and use it right out of the box without having to do much optimization or customization. So there we fetch it, put it all into a buffer, which is very important. So we don't use the local file system, we're using a buffer, so in memory. And then we convert it and return right away back what it is. So here we just do the response data, set the format, right? If the format is different, it will take it now to buffer, error buffer, if error, blah, 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 give us an error process, right? So if there's something which we can't convert, it will do that. Otherwise, it will just set the headers and everything correctly, right? So it does do either image format, JPEG, JPEG, or format, whatever you have. Then it sets the header condition, inline file name, and the file download name for it, and then sends the buffer. If that fails, it will just give you back an error 500. So when you don't send anything, that's exactly what here happened. right? So you get the first error, and then you say, okay, if I do now question mark and say image URL, just do the wrong one and say http something test.com, it still will do the same because it can't get some of the values correct. So what we have to do is we actually have to use the real image path. And so now we do this. I already copied me this URL here together so that we have the simplicity in it. So in here, we just copy it in and we just fire it up. So now you see it's a WebP here. And if we now want to save this image, we can just save image as, copy image link. So let's do the copy image link so that we can see what the image link is really. And it's still the same. So it doesn't change there the name, right? So now if we save that image, you'll see that the file name is exactly the same as we had before. So we now save it as a JPEG. And now we say, okay, everything is good, nice, but hold on. I don't want it as a JPEG. I like to have it as a different file format. So like we said earlier, we can save it, actually say in the flag and say we want to have it, for example, here as PNG. So let's go back and we're gonna just copy that in, right? And we do this as a PNG now. So now we do right click, save image, and now you see it is a PNG and save it. So you can use different formats there and you can change that pretty much to whatever you like. So if you want to have it as a GIF, you can change it into a GIF and now it comes even as a GIF. You just save it and then there you see it as a GIF. So, and then when you open that file, you see it also as a GIF. So that's one of the good things with that functionality. You can change it on the fly. So let's now figure out why we had the other important part. So because we said here the apt-get is a convert images, right? So, but when you see it, I'm calling it as /API. I'm doing that because later on I want to do more than just images. I want to also do documents. I want to do other file formats as well. So how did I achieve that? Very simple. As we are on the marketing server, we have another powerful tool which we quite often underestimate its capability, which is our web server itself. So our Nginx in this case, we go into sites available and we have here, as you see, there's the analytics, there's the default. So in the default, what I set up is this section here, right? So I put again our security mechanism in so it doesn't fly off the shelf. But everything else is pretty much relatively straightforward. So I set here what location I want to have it sitting at. And then I'm going to do a proxy pass and pass it into the backend to the local. And again, we don't have the capability in the backend to really do much without doing a lot of work. So I said, okay, in the backend, I don't care that it is HTTP or HTTPS. Like when you just saw, I said here in the front, not secured. But if I have my certificate already installed here correctly, then it doesn't really matter. But if I don't have my certificate correctly installed, then it will matter. So we'll get into that in a little bit later version on how to proper. We already have certain certificates installed, but for the default, we have not configured it yet. We have it for the analytics server side already done, but not for the marketing server side. So that's why it says here not secure. But as soon as you have an HTTPS certificate installed there, you can run it fully secure, which is what you want for SMM, so that you can actually go from start to finish full secured, right? So back to here. So what we do is we say in the proxy, the HTTP version is 1.1. Then we say the header is the host, machine itself. Then we're going to pass over the real IP for the remote address so that in the logging, it also saves then the correct remote IP address. And it also gives us the forward header for the proxy at X forward header. So that's in, and then also the protocol, the scheme. These are defaults you want to do when you want to lock down the application so that at a later stage when we say allow only from, then we can limit it and say, okay, the proxy is only being allowed to be called from yada yada yada. So we could do a function up front in the code later on where we say, okay, we no longer want to directly call this through a web browser, right? Instead, we have an application where in that application, when we click the button, it executes it locally. And then when it's locally, then we can say, okay, allow and deny all, right? So when we do then the allow and let's say localhost, then it would be allowed to do it locally, but you trying from the website, from remote, you can't. So with that, you can secure it in certain ways. Right now, it's wide open, so everybody can pretty much call it, test it, use it, and it works absolutely good and very fast. So it doesn't really matter. Again, you just have to specify which image format you want, and you have to specify the image path. So as you can see, there's no .php or .something on the file format either. So it's just convert dash or convert minus images or dash, whatever you want to call it. And with that, you're giving then with a question mark, the first path variable, which is the image path, equals the URL, and it calls that URL, loads it into the buffer, right? And then in the buffer being held, which means this data is being held in the buffer, and then you give it what format you want, and then right away it executes it. So very simple, very effective, very straightforward, so that later on when we go, for example, and do Instagram posts, and we post something on our marketing server, and we want to do a one push button to push into that API so that we can do a marketing post directly, then it needs to convert that file format. If it is a WebP, it's not allowed because they only really want JPEGs for some odd reason. It's a different discussion why, but they just want JPEGs and a couple other formats, but PNG they have a problem with. So when you try to do a PNG, it's like a 50-50. Sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. So that's why I said, okay, I need to have a functionality in order to convert it. So hopefully this will help you. Again, please like and subscribe to this. We have a lot of stuff coming up. We have a lot of stuff being working on. And again, when let's do this, we just take here a copy image link, right? So just so that you see it's nothing is static. So I put in the image format and you see now it's a different one. Put it in, boom, there it is. You see how fast it's being called, and that's from one web server to another. And again, that web server, what I'm calling is in Miami. This is sitting in Atlanta, so it's not a very big distance, but it's a couple hundred miles in between. They are not directly connected. There's no VPN or anything in between. So if I wanted to call it from somewhere else, I could and just do the same. So let's say we have this image here. Let's see if we can say copy image link, and just put that in wherever that's coming from now. I have no clue. And say, there we go. That's a PNG. I want it in the GIF. Boom. There I have my conversion already, and I see there I have the world map from Kamatera's website converted over into a GIF for me, so I can actually then upload that social media wise. So there's a lot of power you can do with this. And when you look back into the code, and I share the code again into luminate.info, we have a subsection. I'm going to show you what it looks like in a second here. and we're going to upload all that configuration, what we did here and what we did also in the Node.js, so that you can pretty much go and understand through the video, but essentially you can just copy and paste those URL queries or the code and put it in place, and you're pretty much rocking and rolling. Just make sure that all the prereqs are installed. So if you're missing a module, please use the NVM and install it. As we did already in the previous video, I pre-installed all of that because I know what I'm gonna go through this series. So I don't want to break it all down in details, but what you can see, we using, let's go over it quickly. Opt, Node.js, and Nano server. So we have already in use the upper section, right? So the Express we use the HTTP, we use the syslog, don't use sharp, we don't use course yet, but you should use course just to making sure that when you have things coming from cross domain, meaning you try to execute it on, let's say, lumanet.info, but it comes from kamatera.com, then you need course to be enabled, otherwise it will fail. Axios is a powerful thing to call functions, and FS is for a file system if you want to handle it. We don't use it here yet. In another step, we're going to use it. It's for logging purposes of some errors. The URL you need, so you have to require the URL. You need the path, so you require that. We don't use joy in this. That's a later stage, so ignore that. Then we have the GM, which we call, right? And then we also use a stream and a util. So, and while you already added, you might want to do the course option just so that you have that already pre-specified for what's about to coming next. Because when you do API calls later on, you need some of these functionalities to tell them, hey, I'm coming from this and I'm coming with that. As you can see, I want to make sure that everything is HTTPS, so it's hard coded in, and so that then the API side on social media side just accepts it and says, okay, everything is secure, everything is good, the whole data flow is correct, nothing is breaking RC regulations. And so when you're stepping from HTTP into HTTPS, because on the API side, on the social media side, everything is HTTPS. So you have to make sure everything goes via HTTPS already over there. So that's part of the prereqs you need. But here's then the code, and that code will be posted. The way we're going to post that is when we go on to our Lumanet website, you can go up here into the menu, and you see there's the LSEIT corner, and here you see already all the videos with its titles reflecting here. And so when you go through and you want to see the high performance engine X how to, here it is, there's the link to the video, and here's what we actually went through in the configuration. So it's all documented very in raw short form, but this gets you going if you decide you want to skip over this video and you just want to copy and paste. But again, when you go back to the video, you might understand why certain things are put in certain places. And when you're here and you just click YouTube already closed and you just go here and you click on it, it will open up your YouTube video again. I just see that I forgot to put the link behind here, but essentially what it is, let me pick another one, right? So you click here and you see there's a YouTube. So when you click here, you bring up directly the YouTube, and there's a YouTube video from before where we did all the installation and everything. So it's loading everything up a little bit, but there's the video. So that's how it works. We want to make your life easier. So that's why we have the cross links. That's why we put the notes in the description of each video so that you can get to it by just clicking on it. But also, if you want to learn for yourself and copy this and learn how to do all this coding, and you don't have right now the budget, but you like to also see what Kamatera has to offer, there's a link, an affiliate link in the description below where you can click on it and you can get for 30 days a free trial. So you can test it with, I think it's one VM, or I have to see in the specs there exactly, but it gives you essentially 300 operating hours, which is 1 month, 30 days. And you can test everything what we're doing here and what we are trying to work on. So as you can see, here's the Matomo server running on the same server. We already started collecting some of the information. There's a follow-up video with it, and for the life of me, I can't remember my email address or my password. Don't know why that is happening, or it's just the session being expired. But yeah, so we see already that we got some traffic here now for the last couple of days grabbed. There's more being collected, but as soon we have some good usable data, we're going to make a video out of Matomo, how to use Matomo in detail and how to break things down, and also how to compare it to, let's say, Google Analytics, what you can see in Google Analytics versus what you can see in Matomo. So there are more videos coming, and we try to feed more and more videos at least twice a week. We try to do some content and upload it here into the channel. So please like and subscribe. And again, have a very wonderful day, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.